Everybody, welcome back to the Jay's Fifth Down podcast. I'm your host, Jaden. Once again, just going to be previewing here on the podcast the Cowboys and Titans on Thursday Night Football. We got tomorrow, as well as the Peach Bowl between Georgia and Ohio State. That's going to be on Saturday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. So we're going to be previewing that in the podcast. But before we get to these things, please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share to our channel on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's where we are at. Check us out, Jay's Fifth Down. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We're there as well. So make sure you check us out on those platforms. So as I've said multiple times on this podcast, the Dallas Cowboys are one of those teams where they have been a regular season team for more so the last 30 years, pretty much, because again, that was the last time they won a Super Bowl or made it far into the postseason. Was in like the 90s. When they had those Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith teams, and when they were just they were just riding high, right? Since then, it just hasn't been much for Dallas. To say the least, and I feel like, especially after the win against the Eagles on Christmas Eve, I think that really inflated the Cowboys' ego a little bit too much. And so my advice to them would be, please don't get a big head if you're Dallas, because this isn't what you need to be worrying about. You got a game tomorrow night against a Titans team that's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. And they're 7-8, and they got a big game next week against the Jaguars, who are also 7-8. So that's really going to ultimately decide who wins the AFC South, pretty much, and how that all plays out and everything. So, because 7-9, you're not going to be able to make the playoffs, or rather 7-10. But you're not going to be able to make the playoffs, and so for the Titans' sake, they're fighting for this playoff spot. They're wanting to get in there, and even though Ryan Tannehill's been hurt, and Malik Willis is going to get the start tomorrow night there, but still, I just the Dak Prescott and the Cowboys need to take this one game at a time. They need to take it one game at a time. Worry about beating the Titans tomorrow night. Playing on the road, which you've been 3-3 on the road this season. That's what you need to be worried about. Not necessarily the Eagles or the playoffs or whoever. That's not what you need to be focused on. You need to be focused on the team that you've got up next. And it's when you're a team like a franchise like Dallas, and you got these high octane players, and you got this and that, and Jerry Jones and this type of ownership. You're elevated on this pedestal, right? America's team, as they're called, so they just they're just put on this famous pedestal, in a sense, to put into words, and it's just not, they can, it can give you a little bit of an ego. Like I said, it can give you a big head, and it can inflate your ego, and that's not what you want to do, because teams who do that, it just doesn't work out for them well, because again, they're not focused on what they should be focused on in the moment, improving and getting better. If I'm a Dallas fan watching that defense against Philadelphia, on Saturday, I'm not too happy. I'm actually a little concerned, because again, you let a Gardner Minshew led Eagles team, go up and down the field on you, score 34 points, right? Even if their defense did play well in spots in the game, when it did matter, getting off the field, getting those interceptions, and getting off the field on third down at parts in the game, but for the most part, it was just not, the defensive effort by both teams wasn't really all that good, because again, you just over the middle of the field is the issue part for the Cowboys defense, and has been for the last couple of years, and they really struggled to cover the middle of the field, and that's an area where, I saw that the offense of Philadelphia was attacking, like to get those crosser routes over the middle of the field with Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins and AJ Brown, then of course the outside the numbers, right? They like to get those little corner routes outside the numbers. Those the Cowboys defense is a defense where the secondary, if you can get their if you can get their corners turned around, or if you can just bump and run them, and get behind them, that yeah, they will, yeah, they will let you get behind them. We saw like especially with Trayvon Diggs, who was an aggressive corner by nature. That tends to get him in trouble at times because he likes to, he's a turnover machine. He led the NFL interceptions. It was what, last year. And so it's like, yeah, that's a good thing, but that aggressiveness, that want to, just go get the football, that can get you in trouble if you're a very aggressive corner like that, and you get them to bite on a double move, and you can get right behind them. So that's a weakness that I have seen with Trayvon Diggs for the last couple years since he's been in the league. He's a great corner. He knows the game. He's very intelligent. He's skilled. He's got talent, but those are the things that get him in trouble because he's so naturally aggressive. He likes to go and just attack the football, but he'll lose coverage responsibility. So that's an issue for the Cowboys defense. I think they need to fix it. They want to move far going forward. But my big thing is this again, like I said, don't put the cart before the horse. Do not put the cart before the horse. Or do put the cart before the horse. Do not put the horse before the cart. It doesn't make sense. For Dallas, you can't be. Again, you cannot worry about what's ahead. You can't be thinking about the playoffs against Philadelphia. You're going back there. We're going to see them again and all that type of stuff they were talking about after the game. You heard Dak Prescott say it and Jerry Jones was saying it and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can't be thinking about that. You got to be focused on Tennessee, and then you got to be focused on the Commanders, who were one of the teams to spoil Philadelphia's perfect season. Right? They came in there with a good game plan. They went and ran the ball down their throats and forced the Eagles to go make some changes and sign some bigger, defensive linemen to kind of, eat up those holes, on that D line. And so that's my thing for the Cowboys. Don't think you just gonna roll through these next two games. Don't think that, because Tennessee's gonna be fighting again, like I said, for that spot, that playoff spot in the AFC South. They're gonna grind. They're gonna fight with you on Thursday night, and then you got the Commanders next week, who, again, they're a team that they're fighting for it as well, and Carson Wentz has been named the starter, which is something to monitor. He has been named the starter for next week, or this week rather, this upcoming week, so, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing, depending, I guess, on how he plays when they face off against the Cowboys in the season finale in Week 18. So those are my things I'm watching out for. I just think that Dak is 1-3 in the playoffs as a starting quarterback in Dallas. He's 1-3. They haven't done much. I mean, I've got to see that this year's Cowboys team is different from the ones in years past, because I just don't see it. I don't. Last year they had a good team. They were at home in the playoffs. They were at home and they lost to the 49ers. And then year before it's the same deal. Just they get there. You have a great regular season. Great offense. Defense is good. They got a good pass rush, and they get to the playoffs and they just fold. They can't finish. They can't put it together. This has been something that the Dallas Cowboys have been dealing with for like I said, the last 20 plus years, and it just is, until I see a change, I cannot give them any leeway into the postseason. I don't think they're going far. I don't think they're going to play Philadelphia at I don't think they're going to play them at any point, because I just don't see them going far at all. The Cowboys are just not. Until they prove otherwise, I don't see them as a legitimate postseason threat to anybody. I really don't. Especially you have to play a team like San Fran or somebody like that, Minnesota or whatever. I don't know. Teams like that. The NFC is very good this year. Even you got the teams like the Panthers and the Bucks that could still sneak in, right? You got some dogs this year in the playoffs on both sides, particularly on the NFC. You just got some teams that know how to fight. They run the football. They're physical. They're tough, and they're wanting to get into the playoffs. And do the same thing. Run the ball down your throat. Be physical. And take the plays when they need it in the passing game, and then get after you on defense. Right, just being physical at the point of attack and just wanting to wear you down throughout the game. Carolina's a team like that. They've improved since Steve Wilkes has taken over as head coach. So that's, and then of course the 49ers. Who, as Rusty Bird was saying on our show yesterday, that or sorry, Nick Winkler was saying on our show previously that that I think that you have to give the 49ers as well, that they've got some credit. You got to give some credit to them. I really think that the 49ers, they've had a great season. And Kyle Shanahan's done a great job. They did a great job of getting McCaffrey in there over from Carolina, and they did just the way they built the offense. And then of course you got Brock Purdy, who's the last pick in the draft, starting for them. Like, he's a rookie and he's a starting quarterback now. So it's just really, I just love what the I just love what the 49ers have been doing this year. And I think you have to put him as Kyle Shanahan definitely as a coach of the year candidates. I don't think. Yeah, I mean he's definitely a coach of the year candidate this year. Now that I think about it, but again, I got to see something different from the Cowboys this year. I got to. Otherwise, I just think it's the same old crap for them, same old stuff. For the Titans' sake, Malik Willis will again start again at quarterback, as I mentioned. They're wanting him to show progression in the passing game. He's the first rookie quarterback to throw for less than 100 yards in each of his first 3 career starts since Doug Williams in 1978. So the Titans again want to see improvement from him in the passing game. And even if they don't make the playoffs this year, going into next season, because you're most likely thinking that this is going to be your starting quarterback. I don't believe Ryan Tannehill is. I mean, if it's me, he's not my starting quarterback next season in 2023. I think you got Malik for a reason. He's got some good game action this year. Got some reps under his belt. I think you start him first thing next season. Just and let him just develop and manifest it to what you drafted him to be, franchise cornerstone quarterback. And so again, it starts on Thursday Night Football against the Cowboys. They want to see improvement out of him. They want to see the team fight, and I expect a lot of Derrick Henry, of course, as it normally would be. So it's looking like he's going to play. I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a tough game for Dallas. I don't think they're going to have a problem scoring points, but that's just a matter of can they not let their head get in their way and start looking ahead, to where to the future instead of again focusing on the game at hand. So that's the big thing I have with Dak and the Cowboys. So again, y'all can catch that game. Again, Dallas at 11-4, the Titans 7-8 on Thursday Night Football only on Amazon Prime at 8:15 Eastern Time tomorrow night. Guys can catch that game there. Now switching over to college football here. Like I said, you got the Peach Bowl, Georgia, Ohio State, a game I wanted to highlight on the show today. That game's to be on 8 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN at Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta. It's going to take place. You got the Bulldogs and the Buckeyes. I think the big thing for this is that the X factor in this game, I think, is going to be for Ohio State is Marvin Harrison Jr., the son, of course, the great wide receiver from the Colts. I think he's finished the year with 72 catches, 1,157 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He didn't win the Blitnikoff Award, but he had a great season for a wide receiver, and I think he's going to be the X factor. I really think he's had 6 100-yard games with and 2 games with 3 touchdown catches this year, which is good, really good for a receiver. He's physical. He can go high point the football. He's got great separation, great hands. He is a really good receiver. I think he's going to be one of the best to come into the draft. So I really am looking forward to him and seeing how they're able to get the ball to him. He's most likely going to be going against Kelee Ringo from Georgia, who is one of the better corners in the game and one of the better corners in the upcoming draft. So this is going to be, again, I think this is going to come down to, for Georgia, do what you've been doing, obviously, running football, being physical, and Stetson Bennett has been able to pass football at a competent level, and so, getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers, which, again, Brock Bowers and, Kieris Jackson, Kenny McIntosh, and those guys, Lat McConkey. So the Georgia's got some decent playmakers on the offensive side of football, and we all know about their defense and how stingy they are, but the offensive side, they've got some decent playmakers. So the big thing for them is can they just continue to do that and work their way down the field, wear down that Ohio State defense, who has a tough task, going up against that Georgia offense. And the big thing about Ohio State, and this is what got them in trouble last year, and that's why they didn't make the college football playoff, is because they weren't physical up front in the trenches. That's a problem that they struggle with. Michigan kind of beat them up, it's up and down the field that way. It's out physical them. They're more aggressive, and so that was a point of emphasis going into this year for Ohio State, and so that's going to be a big key is how were those offensive linemen handled Jalen Carter and that Georgia defensive line up front, and can they, because they're really good in how they control their gaps and the different schemes like that. Will Muschamp doing a great job, the defense coordinator for the Bulldogs. As far as just how he's orchestrated that defense. And for me, but Ohio State, again, this is a team that's averaged 44.5 points per game, second in the nation this year. They have the 10th fewest third down attempts by any team in the country. And they convert 46% of the time when they do get to third down. So that tells you, they don't get in third downs very often. Because the offense is so high octane that they don't get the third downs very often. So for Georgia, the keys for them is you got to get them into third downs. You can't let them just kind of dink and dunk and this and that. Just get those chunk plays, those big chunk plays on first down. Just get keeping the chains moving, and so that's what Georgia can't allow themselves to do, because they know if they do that, it can be a long game. So that's the keys I'm looking for in that game. Again, my X factor is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. I expect them to get the ball to him often and early in this game because he's that much of a game changer. I mean, you look at Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase back in 2019 when LSU had that crazy team, right? And they won a national championship that year. But you see how those two receivers took over the whole college football playoff. Going back to that regular season game against Bama, and like how they just continued to go on from there. They played a tough defense, and they still were able to work their way down the field and just eat up yards and rack and all those kind of things. And so moving into the playoff against Georgia and Oklahoma, they just ate them up. And so it also helps when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, but at the same time, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson ate up that whole college football playoff. They ran it at the receiver position. Devontae Smith did it in 2020, for Alabama. So my thing is this: can Marvin Harrison Jr. be that guy for Ohio State and just take over the college football playoffs at the receiver position for them? And that's going to be key. If he can do that, if he can eat up and just make those big time plays when he needs to make them, not even just I'm not telling Ohio State to force feed him the ball, because of course Georgia's too good defensively for that. But when he's there, get the ball to him when it's there, when it's open, give him the ball, let him make the play out in space and open field, and and just let him play his game and take over. I think that's going to be key for Ohio State to get this win. And they have to stay on the field. They cannot get off the field on third down. They have to stay on the field on third downs. And they have to eat up time away from that Georgia offense, keep them on the sideline, and wear that Georgia defense down. Those will be my keys in the college football playoff for Ohio State and Georgia. You guys can catch that game on ESPN. It's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, 8 o'clock, Saturday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. Big game, as well as Michigan and TCU. So you guys can catch that game as well. But thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of the Jay's Fit Down Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ngay, as always. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share. We're on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all those things. Make sure you just check us out there, give us a follow, and tune in next time.